I've been recording this past week on a friend's project, and we're doing it old school, and by that I mean we're recording without a click track, live to tape, with amps in the same room as the drums, which means everyone has to get it on the same take. You can't easily cut things together. And it got me thinking, what are some just helpful recording tips? Things that I've learned the hard way, and hopefully you don't have to learn the hard way. I've been doing this professionally for over 10 years, and by that I mean I've been paid to play on other people's albums and singles for over 10 years, and I love doing it. So these are some things that I've picked up along the way. I would love to hear your tips, so put them in the comments. So here's some practical recording tips. Okay, first thing, if you're recording and you make a mistake, don't stop. Just keep going, plow all the way through the song. Don't ever tell someone else to cut. Don't ever tell the engineer to stop the recording. There's a couple reasons for this. One, the first take or two usually is a throwaway anyway, where everyone's sort of getting their parts and the engineer's dialing in some sounds, and those are sort of practice takes anyway. But sometimes your mistake might actually be cool. This happened to me this week where we were doing this intro to a song, and we were going from D major to A minor and just going back and forth between those two chords. And I remember I walked the bass from the A to D, and I played a C sharp, which is not in the key. I should have played a C natural. And in that moment, I was like, I just ruined the take. But I kept going, and we listened back to it, and it actually sounded cool. Like, it sort of sounded bluesy. It was like a chromatic thing leading into the chord, and everybody else liked it. And that take for everyone else and myself ended up being the best feeling take, and that's the one that's going to go on the album. So the point is, sometimes what you think is a mistake might actually be a charming, interesting thing that happens and actually works in the music. So if I'd stopped the take, we would have ruined that moment. All right, next one, the mix is all that matters. And by that, I mean, sometimes things sound bad by themselves and they sound great inside of the song. And that's more important. That's why I think it's really important that if you have the opportunity to go back into the control room and listen through the speakers, you're going to hear what you actually sound like in the song itself. And that's going to inform things about mic placement or the EQ on your amp, or if a pedal is working or it's not working, things like that. Something might sound good to you by itself, but then when you hear it in the song, it gets lost. Something might sound bad to you, but when you hear it in the song, it sounds good. So always listen in context of the song and make your decisions based off of how you sound in the mix. Hard stop. This is Future Philip. I'm editing this video the next day, and I realized I didn't give any proper introductions. I'm really sorry. First up, that man playing drums, his name is Chad Collins. He is one of my favorite musicians in the world to play music with. Absolutely amazing drummer. Also amazing piano player. He did a lot of the keyboards on this session, and that's him playing at the top of the video. Also the artist Thijs, aka Roofman, a very good friend of mine. He's from the Netherlands. He came over to the United States to record with my friend Rhett Schull and myself this week. Rhett is producing this project, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all three of these gentlemen for letting me film while we were working, because these songs aren't done yet. They're not released yet. This is the first anyone has heard them, is this video. So if you want to hear the finished results, I'm going to post a link to them when this project is complete. So follow me on social if you don't already, and I'll make sure to share that with you. In the meantime, if you want to check out some more of Thijs's music, I did play a full-length album to tape a year and a half ago in Hamburg, Germany with Thijs, and that album is out. So I'm going to put links to that in the description as well. So now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the video. Next one, don't ask too many questions. This is one that took me a while. I think when I first started out, I would ask the producer or the engineer or the artist too many things like, hey, which bass should I use on this? Or, hey, how do you like the EQ on my amp? Or, what do you like better, this or this? I think some of that comes from insecurity. You want to be validated and told that you're sounding good. Don't do that. Trust yourself. Make the best decision that you can. Don't ask. I find that good leaders in general, or good producers, they trust people to do their jobs. I think good producers are going to assemble great musicians in a room that they can trust to sound good. And you need to trust yourself to sound good. Make the best call that you can. That way they can focus on the big picture things like the tone of the song or the direction or the flow and not have to worry so much about the little nuts and bolts things. I think that's your responsibility as the session musician, so that with the least amount of words and the least amount of communication, the engineer can just pull up your fader and it sounds good. So make some of those decisions proactively. The questions that I will ask will be things to the artist like, what is this song supposed to feel like to you? And they're not going to tell me what to play. They're going to tell me what their vision for the song is. And then my job, which is really fun, is to try and interpret that. And then make all of my musical and tone decisions to reflect their sort of feeling or vision for the song. Get asked to play more. Do not get asked to play less. You can usually tell the difference between live musicians and studio musicians based off of how much space they leave in the music. Live musicians are used to just filling up all of the space based off of what they hear. But studio musicians have to leave space for overdubs, which is when you layer more and more musical layers on top of the arrangement. You have to imagine musical elements that you can't hear and to leave space for them. It's always better to get asked to play a little bit more than asked to play less, because if you're getting asked to play more, you're being trusted to fill up the space in a creative, cool way, and there is space. The producer is kind of giving you the green light to take up a little more space in the music based off of their vision. Then it's cool to sort of step out a little more, but I think it's always important to wait for that invitation. Next one, whoever writes the check, that's how the gig goes. I had a music teacher that used to say that, and it was great advice, and it can apply to all kinds of things. Let's say the drummer has one idea, the producer has another idea, the artist has another idea, you have an idea, and everyone's not in alignment about what to do. Guess what? Whoever writes the check, that's how the gig goes. You are being hired to provide a service, which is to play excellent parts that meet the vision of the person that's hiring you. And guess what? If you're writing the check, aka you're doing your own music, or maybe you're in a band where no one's paying, it's a little different then, right? You can have a little more creative identity, a little more ego. But if you're being hired to provide a service, whoever writes the check, that's how the gig goes. Next one, I see amazing musicians struggle with this all the time. Control your vibe. And by that I mean control your body language, your tone of voice, your ego, your whole vibe. That's the number one way to not get asked back is bad vibes. It's way better to have good vibes than to have good chops. I'm going to die on that hill, especially for the artist. If the artist, maybe they have taken years to write hundreds of songs and boil them down into 5 or 10 songs that they're taking into the recording studio. It is a very vulnerable creative space for them. And if you do anything that makes them feel like you don't like their song, or you don't like their ideas, or you don't think they're a legitimate artist, or they don't deserve to be there, they are going to internalize that and they're going to shut down. It's a very vulnerable place for an artist to be in the studio. And as a musician, you are sort of like a helper that's come along to sort of bring these songs into the world. And you need to do that with a lot of humility, without an ego, without an attitude. And you need to help them bring their vision to life. Okay, and the last one, play like a human. And by that, I mean software is getting so much better. MIDI is getting really impressive. You could program some convincing analog sounding bass things with a keyboard and a computer. But some things are really hard to do with a computer, and I think lean into the things that are those nuances that make your instrument sound unique and make your instrument sound real. For example, it'd be really easy to program a walk up from 1 to 4 in a computer with a MIDI keyboard and do something like, but then it'd be a lot harder to program something like, right? Those little blurry in between slides, and those things sound like a bass or like a big slide at the going into a chorus. Those things are hard to program. So I think lean into those sort of idiosyncrasies of your instrument that make it unique. Do some really bass player-y things. Have a little bit of intentional sloppiness, controlled, precise sloppiness. That sounds real, it sounds human, and that will justify your existence in the project. Those are some of my tips. What are yours? What are some recording tips that you have? I would love to know. Write them in the comments. I love talking about this stuff. I might do a follow-up video because of how much I enjoy this topic. Maybe a more bass-specific one. Let me know what you want to know. And if you want to help this channel out, I do have a bass course. The link to that is in the description. And I also have some free stuff for you down there. I have some free practice tracks, some free things for you to play along with if you're interested. And I also have some affiliate links down there. Those are ways that you can help this channel out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.